Good afternoon, everyone. We're just going to wait for a few more folks to join. And while people are joining, we're going to run through some housekeeping, just a little bit of housekeeping. And we'll also bring up the slides so that you know you're in the right session. All right, everyone, welcome. My name is Ann Del Castillo. I'm the Senior Policy Advisor here at the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs. I lead the NYC Create and Place initiative, which works to support creative small businesses and nonprofit arts organizations who are dealing with space issues, whether they're at risk of losing their space or looking to expand or open a new space. Today's virtual legal resources fair is part of our educational programming to connect groups with critical resources. Before we officially kick off our program, we just want to address some general housekeeping items. First of all, can you hear me? If you're having any trouble, please indicate in the chat. Oh, and we are disabling fireflies because we are recording this. So if you're activating that, just know we're going to be deactivating that. Okay, so if you are having trouble hearing, please let us know in the chat and we will be sure to address that. Throughout the presentation, if any of the presenters are speaking too fast or too softly, please let us know that as well. The automated closed captioning feature will be available for those who wish to use it. Participant mics will be muted throughout the webinar and the raise hand feature will be disabled. We're going to ask you to submit questions through the Q&A feature. And then we'll begin the session with opening remarks and then presentations from each of our panelists. After the presentations, we will kick off the Q&A. Please keep in mind, this webinar is for general information purposes only and should not be construed as legal advice. Today's session is the third and final program of our three-part series on building creative capacity. The event will be recorded and posted on the NYC Create and Place Resource Hub, where you can view previous programs, and we will be posting that link in the chat. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator, my colleague and collaborator on NYC Create and Place, Samantha Rauer, Deputy General Counsel at the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs. Sam?
Thank you so much, Anne, and welcome everyone. Before we get started, I'd like to just introduce our panelists. Katie Wagner is Executive Director of Volunteer Lawyers for the Arts, which provides pro bono legal services, education, and advocacy for the creative community. Patricia Wan works with early stage nonprofit organizations at the Pro Bono Clearinghouse at New York Lawyers for the Public Interest, a community-driven civil rights organization advancing equity through legal advocacy, organizing, and nonprofit capacity building. Jacques David is a senior staff attorney with the Community Development Project at the Legal Aid Society, which offers transactional legal services to small businesses, nonprofits, and housing co-ops to support economic growth and community development. Nick Aquino is a staff attorney with the Volunteers of Legal Service Micro Enterprise Project, which offers transactional legal support for small businesses and nonprofits. Elizabeth White-Talk, who oversees the Community Arts Program at Lawyers Alliance for New York, sends her sincerest regrets that she's unable to join today, but nevertheless, we will be sharing information about Lawyer Alliance's pro bono business and transactional legal services to nonprofits and social enterprises at the end of the program. As Anne mentioned, we will have each of our panelists present and then open up for Q&A after all the presentations. So we'll start with Katie from Volunteer Lawyers for the Arts.
Hi, everyone. I'm Katie Wagner, Executive Director at VLA. I'm very happy to be here. We value the work that we do with Department of Cultural Affairs and Create in Place. It's been a great resource for our artists and community. So next slide, Isaac. We'll just jump in. VLA was the first of its kind nonprofit focused directly on the arts community, individual artists, and also nonprofits. I think that makes us stand out a bit from other organizations who do represent only nonprofit entities. We were founded in 1969. And Next slide. Thank you. You might ask what art is, and art is very broadly defined for us and keeps growing. Anything really in the creative space. What we see the most of are visual arts, sculpture, photography, painting, the performing arts, literature, fashion, applied arts like graphic design, video game design, and entertainment. But really, we've had clowns come to us. We've had any number of creative professionals come to us for their work, for help with their work. And about 80% of what we do is really forward-looking, although we do help with disputes as well. Next slide. We offer a number of programs that are focused on the arts community. The first and most robust of our services is our legal services, and we provide that in a number of ways. We do consultations in our offices. Those are short 1-hour consultations with a staff attorney here at VLA. We also provide a clinic setting on a regular basis with our law firm volunteers, and those also are in a setting of a 1-hour clinic. Those are available to everyone regardless of your income. And then we also have long-term pro bono placement, and that is limited only by the amount of your income. And so we do review that for long-term placement. Education, we have a number of classes. We don't expect to teach you, this isn't law school, but what we do expect you to leave our classes with is an understanding of when you need to reach out to us and when you need to take a breath and get some assistance before you move forward with any project. It's always very exciting to get a gallery agreement or a publishing contract, but we always want to make sure that you're as protected as you can be as you're entering into the relationship, so that we don't see you on the other side when you come to us if something has gone wrong with the collaboration. We have some specialty programs, artist over 60, any artist over 60 can come to us. And if you income qualify, all of our services are absolutely free. And we place a lot of artists over 60 for legacy planning, so trusts and estates, as well as really navigating the new sort of digital world that we're in. There are a lot of issues that come up that you didn't have to grapple with over the last 40 years. So we're here to assist. Mediate Art, we have a strong mediation program that allows collaborators to work together to resolve differences without having to go to court. This is a small community, the arts community, and there are a lot of different creative solutions we can come up with and really facilitate communication. So I'd encourage that, and that's open to everybody as well. And then we work with the United States Patent and Trademark Office to help with patent prosecution. So if you are an inventor, I know that many creatives have several different outlets for what they're doing, and if any of those fall into the invention category, we can help you get your patent application filed. So next slide. The most common types of cases that we see: contract drafting and review, nonprofit incorporation and application for your tax exempt status, corporate entity formation. We help you decide, should I be an LLC or should I be a nonprofit? You know, those questions that don't always seem obvious at first. Anything involving intellectual property, particularly the soft IP, as we call it, copyright and trademark. And again, contract IP and other small-scale partnership and business disputes. So we do help with business dispute or with disputes, although I'm happy to say that, you know, about 80% of what we do is forward-looking. So, and then the next slide. While it's not as obvious, we do, as I said, work with estate planning, art-related real estate transactions and disputes. And what this means is we help with anything that touches on your creative life and work. So if it's something that's a real estate transaction for your studio, which would be relevant here, right? It's something that we could help with. If it's your personal landlord-tenant issue, we aren't the appropriate place for that. We do help with bankruptcies, immigration for artist-type visas, employment rights and counseling. A lot of our nonprofits, we help with those issues as they come up in that setting, and then also patents. And then next slide. Again, I mentioned our education programs. I'd encourage you to go to vlany.org and look at our education calendar. For example, this month we have a couple of classes coming up. One is about licensing 101, so licensing agreements and learning the basics of licensing. Another one, which is a very hot topic right now, is First Amendment and art and how how those two interact. So those are two more recent classes coming up. And then just quickly, and I'm sure I'm running over, but just quickly, this is just a visual of our intake process. You can do our intake online. You go through and click Request Assistance, VLA.org Request Assistance, and we have several different options. You press Request Assistance, and if it's a nonprofit, it's one. If it's an individual artist, it's another. You put that in, it starts the process, and we go from there. And I will look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Katie. Next up, we have Patricia.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, and we're so delighted to be here. And we'd like to thank Anne and the CLA team for inviting us to join today's virtual fair and be here in community with our fellow peer legal service organizations. By way of introduction, my name is Patricia Wong, and I'm part of the Pro Bono Clearinghouse team at New York Lawyers for the Public Interest, also commonly known as NYLPE. Next slide, please. To share briefly about NYLPE, NYLPE is a civil rights legal organization that for the past 50 years has worked in a range of different practice areas, including disability justice, environmental justice, and health justice. Next slide, please. At the Pro Bono Clearinghouse, that's part of NYLPE, we are committed to strengthening the nonprofit community by providing resources, building capacity, and connecting nonprofit leaders to pro bono legal assistance. The main services that would be of interest to the attendees today, we think, include our case assistance and capacity building work. Next slide, please. Great, so just to dive a little deeper in our pro bono assistance matching, not too dissimilar from VLA's services as well. We match exclusively nonprofit organizations and community groups to the expert skills of attorneys at NYLPE's partner law firms. We were founded by the private bar, and through our last 50 years, have cultivated a relationship with partner law firms to ensure that organizations receive critical, high-quality legal assistance for free. We are able to assist on a wide range of matters, ranging from common legal issues, such as the ones listed here, and to a certain extent, we can also support on litigation matters. These services are only available to nonprofits or community groups looking to become nonprofits. Next slide, please. We also work with many community partners and law firms to bring timely, responsive training to organizations of all sizes. I would say most of our groups are relatively grassroots, small to mid-sized nonprofits, but we don't have any parameters on who we serve. We serve anyone in New York State, New York City, and also beyond. Our goal in this work is to make legal information more accessible so that organizations that may not have in-house counsel can be more sophisticated about their legal needs. These initiatives are primarily twofold. They're either live trainings, virtual and in person, and written guidance published for free on our nonprofit toolkit, which lives on our website. And we invite you later on to utilize the QR codes at the end of the slides to access our library of resources. Next slide, please. Lastly, I also want to highlight our relatively recent initiative, which we've developed in partnership with Lawyers Alliance for New York, which you'll learn a little bit more later on. They are a peer organization. We work closely with them. We think very highly of them, and they're one of our founding members of this network. In January of last year, our team and the wonderful team at Lawyers Alliance built out a nonprofit resiliency network to prepare and help nonprofits withstand the evolving challenges they face, especially from an administration that may target our client communities. This hub offers resources like trainings, legal alerts, and informational guides with the goal of strengthening nonprofits' capacity to protect their communities. And through this network, we're also partnering with a number of different organizations. And our goal is really just kind of build community and build coalition, with the nonprofit sector and strengthen us collectively. We've organized a slew of timely trainings and topics such as on federal funding cuts, DEI, preparing and protecting your organization in the face of heightened immigration enforcement. And you can find these resources at the QR code here. That comes to the conclusion of our presentation today as part of New York Lawyers Public Interest. Feel free to join our mailing list to stay up to date on our newest offerings. We have a webinar on DEI in the next 2 weeks, and we hope to have a chance to work with many of you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patricia. Next, I will pass to Jacques.
My name is Jacques David. I'm a staff attorney at the Community Development Project at the Legal Aid Society. And I want to thank Anne and New York City Create in Place for inviting the Legal Aid Society to participate in this virtual legal resource fair. The Community Development Project is the economic justice arm of the Legal Aid Society. While most of our organization focuses on courtroom defense, we provide transactional legal services to help low-income New Yorkers build intergenerational wealth, create jobs, and resist displacement. This is our team. There are 3 of us, three staff attorneys, a paralegal, and Andrea Tan is our supervising attorney. Next slide. The core areas of focus include small business support. We represent micro entrepreneurs, including street vendors, salon owners, artists, freelancers, and many other types of entities on business formation and lease negotiations, and in other transactional areas to ensure a long-term stability. We also we provide assistance to nonprofits. We help community groups, including cultural and arts organizations, with tax-exempt status and developing strong board governance. The third sort of leg of the stool is our support to affordable housing developments, HDFCs, which I'm not going to talk a lot about, but if you are an artist or creative living in an HDFC that has some governance issue, we can certainly help you. Next slide, please. Our work with small businesses is vital because small businesses are the primary engine of New York's economy, and they make up about 99.8% of all businesses in the city, small businesses. There's a powerful concentration of minority-owned businesses that make up about 64,500 enterprises. And these are the entrepreneurs that we serve. As I said, street vendors and local creators who are looking to build intergenerational wealth in their own neighborhoods by providing the legal tools to navigate complex leases and contracts. We protect the city's economic backbone and ensure that wealth stays in the hands of the people who live here. Next slide. And these are some of the matters that we can assist on: selecting the appropriate business structure, corporate governance, contracts and operational agreements, commercial lease review, employment law, as well as intellectual property. Next slide, please. Not-for-profits are core to our work in the community development project. The not-for-profit sector is equally foundational to our city's stability. This sector contributes about $77 billion annually to New York City's economy. That's 10% of the city's GDP. And this sector, the not-for-profit sector, it's a massive employer. It supports over 662,000 workers, or nearly 1 in 5 New Yorkers. And we recognize that these 13,000 establishments, including the cultural and arts organizations that define our city, represent 5% of all New York City corporations. That's a really big number. Through our work, we ensure that these organizations have the legal foundation to stay operational and facilitate them in protecting hundreds and thousands of jobs and securing the cultural legacy of our communities. Next slide, please. And these are some of the matters that it's just a representative. The slide just sort of represents some of the matters that we assist not-for-profits on, existing not-for-profits as well as those that look to form. Includes incorporation, tax exemption, regulatory compliance, corporate governance, real estate matters, and intellectual property. Next slide, please. Here's just a brief list of some of the things that we don't handle. That includes litigation, business debt relief, bankruptcy, IRS tax controversies, New York State Department of Taxation and Finance disputes. We do some corporate dissolution. And in cases where a business or not-for-profit operates outside of New York City. So all of our clients are in the 5 boroughs. Either their businesses are in the 5 boroughs or they reside in the 5 boroughs. We don't do a lot of work assisting individuals with grant writing or securing financing. Next slide, please. And this is just some information about our eligibility guidelines. If you are interested in our services, I just ask that you just reach out to me or that you reach out to Anne, and we can have a conversation about your eligibility. Next slide. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jacques. Next, I will pass to Nick.
Thanks, Sam, and thanks, Anne and New York City Create and Place for inviting us today. You can go to the next slide. So, hi, everyone. My name is Nick Aquino. I'm a staff attorney with Volunteers of Legal Service, or we're usually referred to as VOLS, and I'm specifically with the Micro Enterprise Project. So we're a nonprofit legal service provider, just like all the other groups on this call, and we focus on both small businesses and nonprofits and what we call micro entrepreneurs. Really, what I'm referring to, you may not think of yourself as a business owner, maybe you're a freelancer or an independent creative. Certainly that's a category of clients that we support. Just like many others here as well, we provide services through our network of pro bono attorneys. So I'm an attorney myself, and I provide direct advice to clients, quick questions and legal matters. But I'm sort of a generalist, and you may need some particular expertise, and that can be an advantage of working with some of our pro bono or volunteer partners at these law firms. Maybe you have an intellectual property question or need an entertainment lawyer. And we can really tap into our network and facilitate that for you. You can go to the next slide. So in terms of who are our clients, I'll go over eligibility briefly in a moment, but just to give you a sort of sense. So, we do look at income. We have an income threshold for the for-profit side. But in terms of nonprofits, we tend to work with smaller nonprofits. Maybe you have 1 or 2 or no employees. And in many cases, startups or pre-startups. So if you don't have a nonprofit, you're thinking maybe I'll do a for-profit or a nonprofit or some combination, and you want to talk that through. That's something we can certainly help with. We do focus exclusively on New York City. If you're a resident of New York City, that certainly counts. If you are maybe just outside of New York City, but you operate within the city, we can sometimes work with that as well. In terms of the types of clients we work with, so it is a wide range. We don't focus exclusively on creative industries. It really is a wide range of the types of clients we see. But creative industries does make up a large part of our client base, and that could be, I came up with a couple of examples that come to mind. It's certainly not an exhaustive list, but photographers, artists, musicians, product designers. I should say, there's always sometimes a bit of a mix. I have clients that are photographers on the creative side, but then they do more, let's say, business, commercial, like wedding photography. And so we kind of want to figure out how to mix those two things in their business. And that's something we can certainly help with. In terms of the sort of size, like I said, we do help just individual entrepreneurs, freelancers, and then up to, small businesses. And in terms of nonprofits, wide range, art centers, cultural centers. We have a lot of education arts clients. So maybe like a dance school or youth program, around a certain creative outlet. You can go to the next slide. So in terms of services, the type of legal matters we help with, it's a wide range. I think maybe the easiest way to think about it is what we don't help with, and that's really just business disputes or litigation. But really, pretty much everything else falls into our wheelhouse. So that could be setting up a legal entity like an LLC or maybe a nonprofit. It could be reviewing a commercial lease, contract review and negotiation, different IP questions like trademarks or copyright, and employment law. And this really isn't an exhaustive list. So if you think maybe it's something we could help you with, certainly happy to have that conversation. You can go to the next slide. So there's kind of a lot of information on the slide. We'll circulate, how you apply for our services. But just to kind of go over it quickly, we do have eligibility for profits based on household income. We go up to 500% of the federal poverty line. That's around 75,000 to 80,000 for a household of one. And then it goes up depending on your household size. For nonprofits, we just look at your budget under $200,000. And again, that could be $0. It could be you haven't started yet. You're certainly eligible on that point. In terms of how to apply, we have a helpline. You can call the number. You can also email us for an intake form. I think the website just got posted in the chat, so you can follow a link there. We are pretty responsive. I'd like to say we respond usually within a day or two to get back to you. And the cost is, want to emphasize, it's always going to be free. There could be third-party fees, like if you were setting up an LLC, state charges something, but you're never going to have to pay us for any legal services. And then finally, the types of how we provide services. So sort of what I've been mentioning, we provide full representation, like reviewing a commercial lease, negotiating a lease, for example. But sometimes I imagine many of you just maybe have a quick question. I know it can be really hard to get a lawyer on the phone. And we're here for that. I spend a lot of my time talking to clients, asking just quick questions over the phone. So happy to provide that service. And then finally, we do different educational programming, workshops, webinars, clinics, things like that. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Nick. So as mentioned earlier, we also wanted to share some information about Lawyers Alliance for New York. In addition to working with nonprofit arts groups, Lawyers Alliance also works with groups looking to form nonprofits. And Lawyers Alliance draws from a network of attorneys to provide help with governance and regulatory compliance, contracts, commercial leasing, employment policies, data management policies, among other areas. So Liz, who unfortunately couldn't make it today, asked us to share her email contact in the chat. So we'll do that now, along with a link to their website. And now I'd like to bring all of our panelists back on for the Q&A. So this is a question, I think, for everyone in the group, but we had a question. It sounds like a lot of you only serve nonprofits, but I am a small business. Which of you provides services for small business owners?
I can start. We definitely help small businesses and also individual artists who are in fact small businesses, whether they have a legal entity or not. We are us as the other organizations. We do look at income, and it is a multiple of the poverty guidelines. But other than that, we can help, and we can help any artist or small business in our office. It's the long-term services that are limited in by income.
I can go next. So Ball's Volunteers of Legal Service, we also we provide both small business, nonprofit, and sometimes clients that have both a small business and a nonprofit. We can help with that as well.
And at the Legal Aid Society in our community development project, our work, we assist small business owners, existing small businesses and startups. We work with freelancers, and we provide those services in-house, but we also will partner with law firms that are our pro bono partners, particularly on matters like intellectual property. but we provide a full line of transactional legal services to small businesses.
Due to the Pro Bono Clearinghouse, we unfortunately are not able to support most small businesses. The only exception is we have done some work with social enterprises, which are often structured, similar to a for-profit small business, but they have an element of social good central to their mission. But it is on a case-by-case basis. So for the most part, we unfortunately are not able to service small businesses.
And I'll just add that, always reach out to any one of us, because if for some reason it's something that we're not able to handle, we work with all these other organizations, and we will make sure that you get, at VLA, and I'm sure at the other places, get to the right place that can help you. So always ask, don't be limited thinking that there might be a financial impediment, because we are here to serve, and so we give generous, any sort of fee that we might have is subject to ability to pay. So
Wonderful. And then another question, sort of for the group. If I have a time-sensitive issue, what can I expect in terms of turnaround time for being connected with an attorney? And then there's sort of a follow-up question to that. Once assigned an attorney, is that my attorney, or do I get reassigned each time I have an issue?
I can go. I can speak for VLA. That is a challenging issue for us in terms of the longer term services. Getting an attorney for somebody requires the volunteer time of lawyers and law firms. So sometimes we can, place something immediately, and sometimes it might take a few weeks to place. It depends on the complexity of the issue and the expertise of the attorneys available at the time. If there is something time sensitive, we do our best to think through how we might be able to place that. But it's not a guarantee, because we are a volunteer organization. And there was another question. Oh, and for VLA at least, each new issue is, if it's placed for an attorney, is with a new lawyer. Having said that, if you work with a lawyer and you want to come back together and my lawyer wants to continue working with me, we are happy to accommodate that. We, just need to know that that the lawyer's taking on an additional matter for you. And we do that. But this way we're able to get people to the right experts. The lawyer you have working on your intellectual property matters probably won't know about real estate. So, I think that's the way you should look at it. You don't go to the dentist for, back surgery.
I can jump in. So for falls, a little bit mixed. So I'll try to answer this as clearly as I can. So we also work with volunteers, and just like Katie mentioned, that there could be a little bit of a time delay in connecting you with a volunteer. So time sensitive matters we can't always accommodate. Now, with that being said, I have my own caseload, and I provide advice to clients myself. So I'd like to say if there's a time sensitive question, for example, I can usually get on the phone with the client within a day or two. If it's a time sensitive legal matter, maybe I can do it, depending on my capacity, or we would find a volunteer and we'll try to expedite that, but it is a little hard to say. In terms of, having the same attorney long term, again, a little bit of a mixed response. So if it's one of those you get placed with a volunteer, those could change by matter, but we're a pretty small team. If I'm your attorney assigned from Falls, I'll be your attorney really, as long as I'm at the organization. You can always contact me with questions with new legal matters. I'll be, sort of your long-term point of contact.
At the Legal Aid Society, turnaround really depends on the complexity of the matter, and then also whether or not a staff attorney in our unit has some familiarity with the issue. So, for example, if you need bylaws, right away. That's something we could probably do, or an operating agreement, a multi-member operating agreement, something we could probably do. If it's a service agreement that, is a novel issue for us that we've not drafted before, that might take a little more time. We, commercial lease matters, we do handle commercial lease negotiations that are sometimes time sensitive. We've done that. It often requires that we have some pro bono support. And so if we can find a pro bono partner that might assist us on a time-sensitive commercial lease negotiation, we can do that. So again, a lot of it just depends on whether the staff attorney in the unit who might be handling the case has some familiarity with the issue, but whether or not we can bring a pro bono partner on board if the matter is kind of outside of our wheelhouse, or an issue of first impression. In terms of who your attorney will be, there are 3 staff attorneys in our unit, and we do handle a lot of cases in-house. We refer out some of our pro bono matters, but we handle a lot of cases in-house. So your attorney most likely will be either me or one of my colleagues. Again, if the matter involves intellectual property or something a bit more complex, then we would, we'd be partnering with a pro bono partner. And in those cases, the Legal Aid Society is always the attorney of record, and our pro bono partner is of counsel to us. So we don't, we are always part of the case, even if it's a pro bono matter.
I'll just wrap it up on my end on this topic, but echoing sentiments shared by Katie, Jacques, and Nick, timing is always something we try to expedite as much as possible, but there are, just like administrative and logistical challenges, and unfortunately, it is difficult to turn around a matter in a number of days, but we try our best. And in terms of NOPI, our model, we don't, on our pro bono clearinghouse team, we don't offer in-house services. So there's a little bit of the difference there between our services involved and the Legal Aid Society. We rely entirely on pro bono support through our member law firms. That's pretty central to our model. So in that case, most matters that are placed, if you come back to us with a differing matter, we will need to place that matter with most likely a different team of attorneys, just because their expertise is probably going to be on a different subject.
Great, thank you, everyone. And then we had another question. Maybe I'll pass first to Vols, and then anyone else can feel free to jump in. But it was, do you have general advice for established nonprofits with between $1 million and a $5 million annual budget seeking sustained pro bono services from a single provider rather than one-off services limited to specific tasks?
Yeah, this I'll say, and maybe it was I think it was you, Katie, saying this earlier, that at least personally, I know all the organizations on this call, and I'm always happy to refer to others. With that kind of budget, you wouldn't be eligible for balls. But I actually think Lawyers Alliance might be a really great fit. I think I actually used to work at Lawyers Alliance, so I have some sense of how their system works, and they also work with volunteers, so you may have sort of different attorneys, but once you're a client of Lawyers Alliance, you're sort of in their system, you'll have a point of contact. So there's some consistency there. And they do, I can't speak for them and say you'd be eligible for them, but they do have a higher budget threshold than we at Vols have.
We also serve arts and cultural nonprofits who have higher budgets, and the membership is based on the size of the budget. But other than that, we do, again, it is, you won't have the same attorney necessarily. It just depends on what your issues are and how we serve them. So.
Great, thank you both. And just so everyone knows, again, we have the info for Lawyers Alliance's contact in the chat too, so they couldn't make it today. Yet another question that is, do you have to be a US citizen to form a nonprofit? To the extent we can, answer that in this webinar, I will maybe pass to legal aid first.
To my knowledge, I don't believe you have to be a U.S. citizen to be a board member on a not-for-profit.
Okay, great. And then this next one, maybe DLA might be able to take, but it's a question about AI. AI is increasingly brought up at our nonprofits arts organization on two fronts. We want to protect ourselves by not exhibiting possible copyrighted material when artists use AI to create part or all of their artwork. And also, we hear from artists about their fears of AI using their art for other purposes. Does VLA, or I guess any of the other panelists, provide any online resources or guidelines that address these concerns, or would this be something to discuss in person?
We have had several workshops and we'll continue to have workshops. And I'm not sure at this time if we have on-demand classes. So we have our in-person classes, but then we also put them online for on-demand use. I'm not sure if one of those panels is now on there, but we've been encountering this more and more from both sides, from the artists wanting to use AI to create and those who are concerned that their work is being used improperly. And then also, we ourselves as a nonprofit are tackling this issue about how AI is incorporated into businesses and used by your staff members. So I think as a nonprofit, you should be thinking about that. And we certainly can help you, think through policies, help draft policies, to try to do your best to protect yourself, protect those work that you have. But it's a complex and it's a evolving issue right now. So definitely something to reach out and to talk to someone about a specific issue.
Great, thank you. And then it looks like in the chat there is another question directed at VLA. If one has an artistic business operating in a live workspace and we just need legal advice, is that something we could come to VLA for? So the question, I think, was to VLA if one has an artistic business in a live workspace and needs
Oh,
legal
I'm sorry.
advice.
I said yes, 100%. You can come to us. That is right in our wheelhouse. And anything,
Perfect.
again, in a live workspace, even if it had to do with the lease in that live workspace, we could help you. It's only if it's something real estate wise that is completely unattached to your art, that we would not be able to help you. We would refer you to one of these other wonderful organizations.
Thank you so much. Then this next question, I think, was also directed at everyone. Do you ever offer connections to nonprofit boards seeking to place lawyers on their boards?
Yeah, I'd be happy to answer this one. So, at NOPI, we have organized a few of these types of board matching events. They're live in person. We've done a few of them, and we're hoping to do one again this year. In particular, we've connected a number of nonprofits with board members, and the audience that we are attracting to these board events tend to be junior to mid-level associates at law firms. So they are mostly attorneys looking to serve as a board member, interested in board governance. And additionally, like another recommendation we can make, since we work really closely with all of the organizations on these calls and all the other nonprofit capacity builders. There's an organization called Board Strong that also works exclusively in this area. That is a really great resource. And they have an online directory where they do this type of board matching as part of their service. So please feel free to also reach out to them.
Great. We had a question. Recent news about the current administration seems particularly antagonistic towards not-for-profits. As an arts org looking to advance our mission and seeking status, is there any general advice you'd give? Is now just a tough time to become a not-for-profit, or just more scrutiny than usual? Anyone wants to
Yeah.
take that?
I'd be happy to answer this as well. So yeah, so our nonprofit resiliency work is, addressing this topic directly in terms of building resiliency around nonprofits in case their mission areas are areas that are under attack. In terms of incorporating, which I think is the nature of this question, and whether organizations or startup nonprofits are seeing themselves having challenges when it comes to incorporating it and obtaining tax-exempt status. I think it's difficult to make a catch-all judgment on the current dynamics. Anecdotally, we are continuing to assist startup nonprofits in matching with pro bono attorneys who to file for tax-exempt status, and we have yet to hear any challenges so far. But again, it's hard to get, a full glimpse at that. And I'd be curious to hear from the other organizations if they've seen anything counter to that.
I haven't really seen anything counter to that. I mean, I would say this is something that we're very sensitive to at Falls, and it's hard to give catch-all advice. We have had clients that what I would say is a little bit more sensitive nonprofit, and we've been thoughtful and careful about how we frame the application in a way that's sensitive to that. But I agree. I mean, anecdotally, we haven't seen a dramatic or really a noticeable change in how these sort of applications for 501c3, at least in my personal experience, I haven't noticed a notable difference.
I think if your organization receives federal funding, if you're an arts organization and you receive federal funding, the scrutiny is real, and it's something to certainly to keep on your radar and to be conscious of. Several months ago, this administration began clawing back IMLS funding and NEA funding, and also requiring that arts organizations certify that that they are not in violation of the administration's understanding of civil rights laws. And that's particularly challenging. And I think the intent of asking arts organizations and directors to certify is that if you don't frame your answers carefully, and if you don't have the assistance of counsel to help you frame those answers carefully, that there might be potentially some liability, right? And so if your organization has some nexus to the government through grants, federal funding, then I do think that you want to speak with lawyers at my organization, Lawyers Alliance, Volunteer Lawyers for the Arts, or any of the organizations here today, to consider how you can just be sure that you're in compliance. And if you have funding, and even if you don't have funding, what I've observed is that a lot of organizations are still leaning into their missions, and so that's always an option as well. I mean, if your organization was formed to provide access to the arts for low income Black and brown people in East New York, then you might think that you have an obligation to that community to stand up and to lean in, and that, in my experience, I see a lot of organizations that are still leaning into their mission, even though there's a lot of jawboning from the administration.
I agree with everything that everyone said, but I'll just, it is, I think in this area, particularly with sensitivity, as Jacques said, to have an individual conversation with an attorney and get guidance that's right for your organization. What's right for your organization may not be the right choice for another organization. So even if you hear, well, so-and-so said it was okay, so I'm going to do it, you really have to look at your own circumstances. You have to involve your board members. This is, it can be a significant question for the organization. So I would encourage everyone in any sort of instance, or if you have any concern, to get some guidance on that.
Great, thank you all. We have time for a few more questions. So this one, maybe I will direct at Bowles. How does the legal team assist with space for a low budget nonprofit?
Yeah, so I'm assuming you're looking at maybe renting a commercial space. I want to be clear that we focus exclusively on the legal side of things. So, if the question is how to finance a lease and to build out a space, we couldn't directly help with that. That being said, really everything, all the legal aspects of that is certainly something we can help with. I mean, what that usually looks like, you find a space, you sort of, hopefully get some tentative financing for it. And then there's a process of negotiating with the landlord certain aspects of the lease. And that's where we would bring in really most likely a specialized real estate team to not only review the lease terms, but actually negotiate on your behalf with the landlord. So that's definitely something we can help with.
Perfect. And then there was another question about spaces that maybe I'll pass this one to legal aid. When looking for a new space, lease offerings can pop up quickly. What's the best way to navigate the need for timely lease review when there is no real idea when this might arise?
I think if you have a potential lease opportunity, the first thing to do is just ask for a term sheet. Because if you meet with one of our attorneys, that would be one of the first things that they like to review, even before the landlord or the landlord's attorney provides you with commercial lease. The term sheet would be helpful in understanding sort of the contours of a possible agreement. So just at the outset, ask for a term sheet.
Great, very helpful. And then this one, maybe I will direct at NILP. The question in the Q&A was for questions related to protecting the nonprofit's founders' original ideas, should legal advice be to the nonprofit, to the founder, or to the founder separate of the nonprofit? Or is this maybe something that somebody could just reach out and get advice from?
I think we would need more information to better understand the nature of this question, but I think we sometimes get something related to this, and I think it does get tricky when it's, the founder itself who is trying to protect their interests as it relates to the organization. And unfortunately, that's not something we would be able to obtain pro bono assistance for. We're only able to represent the entity itself, and that's also a question that poses a lot of conflict of interest within the organization and the board, between the organization itself, the board director, and the founders. So yeah, I think they're welcome to reach out to us or any of these organizations I'll call to do an intake, but I think it's difficult to kind of give phase level.
This is something that we do see, and there are different mechanisms, corporate forms you can put in place, but it has to be something that is a multi-step process. And better to do it before anything is created, so that when you're entering the organization, there's an understanding of what belongs to the organization and what work is outside of the organization. So I think it's great to ask that question, but try to do some planning around it before all of a sudden you have created something and everyone, as I like to say, 200% of the copyright is assigned to people because they think they all did all of it. So, and it is very complicated, or I don't know how complicated it is, but if something is created when you are an employee of an organization, a nonprofit organization, it belongs to the organization. So the default is that it belongs to organization if it's created as part of your business, if you're an employee and you're creating it. But there's definitely area of gray and ways to work around it, particularly in areas like choreography and dance companies, that sort of thing. We've certainly seen it, and there's case law about it. So give us a call.
Great, thank you. And then I think we have time for one last question. I think this one also is for VLA. If we are a for-profit arts organization and we're having trouble with being funded through fiscal sponsorship, we'd like to partner with a nonprofit to be eligible for the funding that requires a nonprofit entity. Would your organization assist with helping identify a nonprofit partner?
We have not done that in the past, although we do work with, we've worked with NYFA and Fractured Atlas and a number of arts organizations in the city. So we can certainly give some referrals to places, but it's not something that we would take on as a case to find you the fiscal sponsor. But I think there are definitely options for you that we can point you to in the direction of.
Great. I think that we are pretty much at time now. So I just wanted to say a huge thank you to all of our panelists for your presentations today and for all the work you do and your partnership with New York City Create in Place. And thank you all for joining today's session. A quick reminder, we'll be sharing materials along with links to recordings of today's presentation, as well as the other sessions in our Building Creative Capacity series. To get future updates on programs, you can sign up for the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs newsletter at nyc.gov/culture or follow us on social media at nyculture. And that concludes our program. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have a great rest of your day.